The Cold War was a bloodless war that followed World War II. The Soviet Union and America were the ones going against one another. They were trying to grow their respective nations faster than the others, in order to become more dominant. This is important, as it changed the culture of America, forcing them to draw their hand and put more money into quickly improving their own country. In the midst of a stare-down between America and the Soviet Union, America had its own internal conflicts going on. Many reforms were going on at the time, from civil rights reforms to scientific reforms, from worrying about rights to worrying about space travel. As social reforms were being made throughout the country, one of the most prominent ones would be the changes in the norms of the youth. Young men went from having to always be cool, calm, and collected, to actually having emotions. They no longer had to put up a front. As a whole, the youth were now open to many different things. In a sense, the box that they were put in as a child was now being opened up, and all the ideas were being set free without a filter. Both good and bad ideas were coming into fruition. This new generation was the Youth Rebellion. They were called Flower Children, also known as hippies, and they were all a part of the counterculture. Apart from the social reforms during the Cold War, there was also political strife about the wars that occurred prior to the Cold War. This generation had a lot of disagreements with the politics of that decade. Many groups started to challenge authorities and the government's actions entirely. Following World War II and the government's huge spending, many of the women who were once unemployed and just placed in a household to take care of chores were now out in the workforce earning their own money. Because so many men were coming back from the war, society had to increase their production rates. No longer did they need to produce wartime products, rather, they needed to start producing things that consumers needed in general. With more women working, gender equality became much more important as women now had to be equally respected in the workplace, as well as be given equal opportunities. Men and women were now able to hold similar positions, instead of the man just being the main moneymaker and the woman just being the housewife, as it has been for the last couple of decades. I believe this short snippet of Malvina Reynolds' song, Little Boxes, really portrays what society was like back then, where it feels like everything was predestined, and no one could change their path.
And the boys go into business and marry and raise a family in boxes made of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. There's a pink one and a green one and a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same.
Counterculture of the 1960s consisted mainly of the youth. They did not want to follow the social mores of the current society, and they wanted to just make their own rules. They wanted to live in an open-minded society. One of the most prominent events that expressed these counterculture ideals was Woodstock. It was a 4-day event that consisted of generosity, music, drugs, and sex. With this large gathering of people, they felt like they were able to fight against the authorities. Woodstock seemed to be like a form of self-empowerment for the youth. Overall, the Cold War ignited the hearts of many people and opened the minds of the new generation. This generation brought along with them many social reforms that were completely different from the generations before them. People were more free and open-minded. This allowed the youth to partake in many different activities and live a life that would not have been possible a decade ago.